Have you ever found yourself holding on to a fragile memory, terrified that if you let it go, you will lose a part of yourself forever? If you are carrying the heavy weight of the past, hiding a quiet grief behind a polite smile, or standing exhausted at a crossroad in your life, then this story is for you. Close your eyes, breathe in the scent of old ink and rain-soaked earth, and let us step back together into a forgotten, quiet time.
The final letter to nowhere.
In a dusty, chaotic market of a bygone era, there sat a solitary scholar. He made his meager living grinding ink and writing letters for those who could not read or write. His days were filled with the chatter of merchants and the smell of raw silk and spices. But his heart only truly grew heavy once a month, on the day the moon turned into a thin, pale sickle. On that day, a blind old woman would always appear. Her steps were slow, guided by a weathered bamboo cane that tapped softly against the cobblestones. Her eyes were cloudy, like frosted glass, and her hands trembled like fragile autumn leaves as she placed a few rusted copper coins on his wooden table. For 10 years, she came to dictate letters to her son, a young man who had marched off to a distant war. And for 10 years, the entire town, including the scholar, knew a devastating truth. Her son had perished on the battlefield a decade ago. Yet, out of pity, no one dared to shatter her illusion. Month after month, the scholar would grind his ink, sigh quietly, and pretend to write down her words of maternal longing. He would fold the blank paper, seal it, and promise to give it to the postwriter, only to burn it later in the dead of night. But illusions, no matter how gentle, carry a suffocating weight. It happened on a bitter, freezing afternoon. The sky was the color of bruised iron, and a biting wind howled through the market stalls, rattling the scholar's inkstone. The old woman sat before him, pulling her thin shawl tight against the cold. She began to speak, her voice trembling, asking her son if he had enough warm clothes, telling him that the plum tree in their yard was preparing to bloom. The scholar held his brush, but he could not bring it to the paper. The ink gathered at the tip of the wolf hair brush, growing heavier and heavier, until a single dark drop fell, splashing onto the pristine white paper like a tear of profound grief. In that frozen moment, staring at the ruined paper, a harsh but necessary realization pierced the scholar's heart. His pity was not a shield, it was a cage. By playing along with her delusion, he was not protecting her from the storm. He was keeping her locked in a dark, airless room, watering a dead tree and waiting for blossoms that would never come. He slowly set the brush down onto the wooden rest. The sound, though soft, seemed to echo in the quiet space between them. "Grandmother," the scholar spoke, his voice dropping to a low, steady whisper, "you do not need to send a letter today." The old woman paused, her blind eyes turning toward the sound of his voice, a flicker of confusion crossing her wrinkled face. "Because," the scholar continued, swallowing the knot in his throat, "a letter arrived for you this morning, from the border." The old woman gasped, her frail hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly her knuckles turned white. The scholar picked up a blank sheet of paper. He held it up to the winter light, took a deep breath, and began to read aloud the words that were not there, guided only by the deepest empathy in his soul. "Mother," he read slowly, letting the timbre of his voice carry the warmth of a son's embrace. "The snow is finally melting here. The war is over. But mother, I cannot come home the way I left." A breathless silence fell over the tiny stall. The wind seemed to stop howling, leaning in to listen. "I have become the wind that rustles the plum blossoms in our yard. I have become the quiet rain that waters your vegetable garden. I am no longer cold, mother. I am no longer in pain. I am at peace. But my soul cannot truly rest until you let me go. Please, mother, stop waiting in the bitter cold. Live the rest of your days with a light heart, so that I too may fly freely into the vast sky." The scholar lowered the paper. The silence that followed was agonizing. It was the heavy, terrifying silence of a world shattering. The old woman sat entirely still, like a statue carved from sorrow. Then, slowly, a single tear broke free from her cloudy eyes, tracing a deep, jagged line down her weathered cheek. It was followed by another, and another, until she buried her face in her hands, releasing a wail of grief that she had kept locked inside for 10 long years.
The scholar did not offer empty consolations. He did not tell her not to cry. He simply sat there, a quiet, grounded presence, allowing her storm to rage. He let her mourn the truth. When the tears finally subsided, the heavy, suffocating aura that had surrounded her for a decade seemed to have washed away. She stood up, her posture miraculously straighter. She reached out, her trembling fingers finding the scholar's hand, giving it a weak but profoundly grateful squeeze. Without a word, she turned and walked away into the fading winter light. The tapping of her cane sounded different now, no longer the anxious rhythm of a woman waiting, but the steady pace of someone walking back to reality. In our own lives, how often do we become that blind mother? We carry invisible letters in our hearts, addressed to places that no longer exist, to people who have walked out of our lives, to versions of ourselves that faded long ago. We cling desperately to the ghosts of past relationships, to the bitter sting of old failures, or to the phantom of what could have been. We tell ourselves that if we hold on tightly enough, the past might somehow change its course. But the universe operates on the undeniable law of impermanence. Everything flows. The river cannot flow backward, and the fallen leaf cannot reattach itself to the branch. When we refuse to accept the end of a chapter, we do not preserve the love or the memory, we only prolong our own suffering. We turn our hearts into a graveyard of attachments. True healing never comes from ignoring the pain or painting over it with forced positivity. It comes from the courageous act of facing the truth, no matter how devastating it may be. Sometimes the most profound act of self-love is to sit quietly in the ruins of your expectations and allow yourself to grieve. A fierce storm may strip the trees bare and flood the roads, but only after the storm passes does the sky reveal its most brilliant, unclouded blue. A lotus seed must be buried in the dark, suffocating mud before it can break open and push its way toward the sunlight. And often, it is through the very cracks of our broken hearts that the light of wisdom and acceptance finally finds its way in. To let go is not to forget. To let go is to untie the heavy anchor of the past so that your fragile boat can finally sail forward on the river of life. It takes immense strength to open your hands and release what was never truly yours to keep. But the moment you do, you will find a peace that no storm can ever touch again. The deep, unshakable peace of a soul that has accepted the truth. The wind does not hold on to the clouds, and the river does not hold on to the fallen leaves. To love life is to let it flow. May you find the courage to read the unspoken letters in your heart and the grace to finally let them go. May your days ahead be filled with lightness, and may you find true peace in the present moment. What is the ghost you are still writing letters to in your own life? Are you ready to put down the pen? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, for in sharing our burdens, we often find we are not alone. If this story has touched a quiet corner of your heart, please share it with someone who might need to hear it today, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue to spread the seeds of true living together.